I mean, and that's not unreasonable. This is a big decision. It has potential implications about enabling a greater amount of untoward, potentially corrupt, but certainly highly problematic expenditure by increasing the amount of land that the Commonwealth purchased. Now let's leave that to one side. It is reasonable to understand who's actually telling the truth or who's accurate about whose decision it was. Okay, so are you able to provide us, what did you do it? Is there notes, documentation, letters that demonstrate that it wasn't from you, which is what the auditor says?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Okay. There is a brief that was provided to the Minister for Infrastructure and Regional Development in September 2015 that advises that none of the route options would adversely impact on the future use of the site for aviation purposes, which is contrary to contrary to some of the evidence. Let's leave that aside. Can you provide the committee with a copy of that brief?
Yes, on notice.
We'll take it on notice, Senator.
Right. So I think from your evidence it's the case. So your evidence is the RMS is the final decision maker on the alignment of the road. Is that your evidence?
That's correct,
Not
Senator.
the Commonwealth?
That's correct, Senator. As much as it pertains to land that's outside of the Commonwealth. So
as much of it.
So if there is a part of the road that's on Commonwealth land, then obviously we have a decision in that.
Yes. Were any ministers or their officers involved in suggesting to the department that the alignment of the road should be changed?
Not that I'm aware of, Senator.
Are there any other briefs to ministers about the realignment of the road other than the one referred to in the Auditor General's report in 2015?
It's not my area.
Can you take that on
Senator.
notice?
We can take that one on
Yep.
notice.
Are you considering the decision-making process for the Northern Road alignment in the Code of Conduct reviews that we've been discussing that are currently underway?
I'll have to check, but I don't think they're in the terms of reference, no, Senator.
Do you know, given the concerns the ANO have raised, are you aware as to whether or not the AFP investigations are also considering processes put in place around the alignment of the Northern Road?
I'm not aware of that, Senator.
I'm not aware of
Mr. Whelan?
I'm not involved in the AFP investigation.
I'm
Senator.
asking what your awareness is.
Can you repeat the question, please, Senator?
Do you have any knowledge of whether or not the AFP investigations are also considering any of the processes put in place around the alignment of the Northern Road?
Senator, I have no visibility of the AFP investigation.
Have you, Mr Atkinson, or any of your senior officers initiated any departmental reviews to look at this decision?
Senator, it's part of the independent audit to find out all the information about what happened at that point in time.
Which independent audit?
Mr.
Which
Harrison's.
One? Right. So the Code of Conduct investigations don't go to this,
No.
but Mr Harrison's review
Yes.
does.
Why? Once again, it's about the point that I talked about, the audit office focused on the documentation. What I want is interviews with the people who were doing the things at the time so that we can have the full version of what happened at each of these points in time.
It's important to note that I think the ANO found that we had lacking documentation sets throughout this audit, and looking back in time it's quite difficult to identify some of the decision points for these things, Senator. We are trying our best though, and that's part of why we have Mr Harrison on board.
I want to come back though. How do you know Mr Harrison is looking at the Northern Road? Did you ask him to?
But yeah, because it's across the breadth of his terms of reference. He's supposed to look at the entirety of what was considered and basically bring the interview side of it to come together with the documentation to give the full picture of what happened. Because one of the key issues is that there were documentation failures through here.
Yeah, no, but do you have any concerns about the Northern Road realignment?
I want to know what happened.
Why?
Why? Because there was a decision here, and as presented by the ANAO, based on their documentation, value for money was not proven. There are a couple of those other issues that I think there's some characterisation issues that weren't properly done. And I think we need to get to the bottom of exactly what happened.
So there's a value for money problem with the Northern Road, value for money issue with the Northern Road alignment. Well, the Auditor General says there's a value for money issue
Yes.
associated with the Northern Road alignment, and you're also concerned about that.
Yes, there's not documentation that demonstrates value for money, is what the Auditor General report says. And so with all of these things, I actually need to understand what went around it so that we can find out what happened. This was 2 secretaries ago.
Same Commonwealth, same taxpayers.
And that's why we're trying to get to the bottom of it, Senator.
What decision or decisions were made inside the department in relation to the Northern Road, which led to or which were part of this decision-making process? So there must have been a decision to put a view. I understand you have a different view to the Auditor General, but there's obviously a view put by the department to realign the road, correct? There's a subsequent decision to allocate money. There's a decision in terms of talking to your decision partners. What decisions do you make? Does the Commonwealth make that contribute to the realignment of the road?
The road. Senator, Mr Whalen's already taken on notice to give the full decision tree on that. I think I don't want to get at any risk of not telling the right answer.
You got all nervous.
Well, I'm going to take a lot more notice now.
Are you doing?
Thank you.
You just want to go into Cam for one.
Yes, yes. So we're going to complete the hearing and then we'll go into...
I'm done. Thank you very much. Appreciate
So
that.
that concludes today's